Hello again, everyone. I'm going to finish off Carolina week with my look at the Carolina Hurricanes of the NHL. Definitely one of the teams that struggled last year and are looking to turn the corner and head in a new and better direction. Last year they had a 30-41-11 record, which is good for 71 points, in my opinion. If they have aspirations of making the playoffs in this upcoming season and make the 2016 playoffs, they need to have 15 more wins on top of that. So they need to find a way to almost necessarily flip that record. Maybe go 41, 30, and 11, which would get them, 93 points, which probably would get them into the playoffs. Maybe not a very high seed, and they wouldn't get the home ice advantage in that kind of a situation, but definitely need at least to find a way to get to 90 points, bare minimum, if they have playoff aspirations, and adding 20 points is not necessarily something that can easily be done from one season to another. And I think they're heading in the right direction. Not sure if they've added the right pieces or enough pieces to make a playoff run and make a deep playoff run this upcoming year, but definitely think they're headed in the right direction. Looking back at last year as well, I think not having an elite goaltender or a top 10 goaltender kind of thing obviously is going to affect your abilities in making the playoffs and having a solid season. And players not staying healthy obviously has a big effect on the team as well. Semin only played in 57 games. Jordan Staal missed practically half the season. He only played in 46 games. That's going to have an effect on your team for sure when your two big players miss half the season and a third of the season respectively. It's going to have a huge effect on your team and whether or not your team's going to be successful. Again, it's important that when those guys get out, that when they do get out and they do get hurt, the other guys do step up. But you can look at other teams. If Crosby and Malkin got hurt for the Penguins, that'd be a huge hit on them. If Ovechkin and Backstrom get hurt for the Capitals, that'd be a huge effect on them for sure. So it's important that your main stars, your big contracts, the guys that are the cornerstones of your team, that they stay healthy. And if they don't, you're probably not making the playoffs and you're going to have a tough season. But they do have a lot of great young talent. Looking past the Stalls, obviously Jordan had 6 goals, 18 assists in the 46 games he played in. Eric was the only 50-point player on this team. I think that's another big thing to look at as well, is they didn't have a lot of guys get to 50 points. A 20-goal, 30-assist season, I think, is something that a lot of these guys in this team can do and will eventually get to do. Because they have that talent and they have that potential, and they just have to get the opportunity, get the ice time, get the experience to get there. But you only had one guy in your entire roster reach 50 points. Eric Staal had 23 goals, 31 assists, and I think he's the kind of guy that you can expect that kind of production from him. I think with the Staal brothers, I think you can expect a 50-goal, 60-assist minimum season between the two of them if they stay healthy and play a full season together. I think that's something that you can almost expect, that you should be able to expect and can come to expect from the two of them for sure. Semin, obviously they bought out his contract. He had 6 goals and 13 assists in the 57 games he played. So again, he did miss 25 games over the course of the season. But even with him missing that time, 6 goals and 13 assists isn't exactly enough production from a guy who does get into 57 games, and he has been tailing off the last couple of years. So they bought out his contract, and I think that's a great move on their point. I think he still has enough talent in him and enough years left that he can go to a new team and he can produce for another team. He's just isn't that 30-goal scorer that he was, back in 2009 and 2010 kind of thing. He just didn't do that anymore, and he has in the last few seasons, so I think it's okay to let him go. Some other guys, they have Gerby had 10 goals, 18 assists. McClement had 7 goals and 14 assists. So they have some solid veterans as well. But most of this team is born in either 1989 or later than that. First guy I'll mention, Lindholm, born in 94, the 5th overall pick back in 2013. They had the 5th overall pick again this year. I'll get to the draft in a minute. But Lindholm, 5th overall pick back in 2013. He had 17 goals and 22 assists. So 39 point from him. I can definitely see him being a 50-point guy, 20-plus goal scorer going forward with this team. Malone had 7 goals and 8 assists. He was born in 89. Nash, who's recently re-signed with the team, another 89 baby, 8 goals, 17 assists from him. And their last 89 player, Terry, had 11 goals and 9 assists in the 57 games he played in. So again, he missed a good chunk of the season as well. I think he can be a solid player for this team as well going forward. So those are all the 89s. Everybody else I'm going to mention now is born in 1990 or later than that. When you look at their other forwards, and I think these are the guys that are going to be important for this team going forward, is you have Nestrasil, who played in 54 games. 13 of those were with Detroit, so they brought him in. He was born in 91. He had 7 goals and 13 assists over the course of the year. But the two main guys that I think are important for this team going forward are Rask and Skinner. Rask was the 42nd overall pick in the 2011 draft. He had 11 goals and 22 assists this past year. Skinner was the 7th overall pick back in 2010, and he had 18 goals and 13 assists this past year. Again, I think these are two guys that can be 20-goal scorers. I almost want to say Skinner kind of had a setback in his career this past year, which I know is kind of odd to say for a guy that had 18 goals, 13 assists, 30-plus points. But I think Skinner can be a 20-plus goal scorer. I think he could even be a 30-goal scorer with this team going forward, and I think he's going to be an important part of it, as is Rask. Looking at the defense, big guy I think on the defense for sure is Falk. 37th overall pick back in 2010. He had 15 goals and 34 assists. So again, 49 points. So you almost had two guys with 50 points, but like I said, Eric Staal was the only one that did get to 50 points. Falk had 49. And I think that's solid production from a defenseman. I think Falk could be a 20-goal scorer from the defensive position. Going forward with this team, again, still a young guy for sure. Going forward, he's a great guy to have. Jordan, born in 1990, another defenseman, had a couple goals and 4 assists in the 38 games he played, so get just half a season from him, see what he can do with a full year. And Murphy was the 12th overall pick back in 2011, had 4 goals and 9 assists in the 37 games he played. So a couple of young defensemen there that only played half a year. Give them a full season, we'll see what can happen. So I think this team's got a lot of young talent. Some good guys to build around with Lindholm, Rask, Skinner at the forward positions. Some good guys there for sure. Jordan and Falk at in the defensive zone. I think they're solid guys to have there. And I think it's a good team going forward. I think the Staal brothers definitely, if Jordan can bounce back from his injury-plagued season, good forwards to have on this team as well. They do have a solid team. I think Carolina does have a solid team. They're just young, so you're going to need experience. They're going to have some time. They're going to have to build some chemistry, get on the same page, and to go forward and to make the playoffs and have successful seasons. And I think Carolina fans know that. I don't think they're expecting this team to turn around and be Stanley Cup contending team in 2016. I don't think they're quite there yet, and I think the fans know that. But I think the fans also know they're heading in the right direction. They're going in the right way. I think some of the trades they made, I think bringing in Wisniewski for the defense, fantastic. Giving up Kubonin, who was your backup goaltender last year, who had a horrible season, 8-17-6 with a 2.72 GAA and just a 900 save percentage. He's a backup that I would be delighted to get rid of. And if I can get a solid, established, defenseman in Wisniewski, I'd make that trade any day, for sure. So I think that's a great trade they made there. And they also brought in Eddie Lack in a trade, goaltender for sure. Gave up a 3rd-round pick in this past draft for him and a 7th-round pick in 2016. So not too many things to give up for him there. Again, a 7th-round pick. Never really know if those are going to turn into anything anyway. Guys don't get drafted in to become elite players. Wayne Gretzky, for example. But those 6th and 7th-round picks, the late-round picks, you'll never know if they're going to turn into something. Again, the same thing can happen with a 1st-round pick. They could be a bust, but usually they're a little more confident in knowing that if you take a guy in the 1st or 2nd round, that they're going to be something to build your team around and help your team going in the right direction for the future. And I think Eddie Lack is a solid goaltender to bring in. 18, 13, and 4 last year when he was with Vancouver. He had a 2.45 GAA and a 921 save percentage, so much better stats to bring in for sure. And he played in 41 games, so give him a whole year. We'll see what he can do. I think him and Cam Ward are going to fight for that starting position. Ward this past year, 22, 24, and 5 with a 2.40 GAA and a 910 save percentage. So Lack definitely had the better numbers. Played in fewer games, so a little skewed when you compare the two stats. But I think Lack is a solid goaltender. I'm not sure if he's a goaltender that can lead a team deep into the playoffs. Again, he's going to want to prove me wrong, and I think he wants that opportunity coming from Vancouver to get a starting job and lead a team into the playoffs, and I think he's a good guy to have the team going forward. I think Carolina is a tough team to get those elite free agents to get to come to your team. It's just a hard thing to have happen. If Carey Price was a free agent, Carolina would not be even close to his radar on a team to sign with. He's going to go and sign with a contending team, and that's what the elite goaltenders are going to do, and that's what the elite teams can do, is they can find those goaltenders to make them elite teams. It doesn't matter if you have the best forwards in the league, the best defense. If you don't have a great goaltender, you're going to have a hard time getting to a 45, 50 win season. But I think Eddie Lack can potentially get them there. I'm not sure if he's the guy, but I think he's definitely a step in the right direction for a goaltender with this team. Finish off, just look at the draft real quick. They did draft Noah Hannafin, who's a defenseman. with the 5th overall pick. He was the first defenseman taken in the draft. I don't necessarily know if that means he's the best defenseman that was available in the draft, but he was the first one taken. 35th overall, they drafted Sebastian Aho, if hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is a right winger, so who knows? He might be playing with the team coming forward. We'll see what happens. Nicholas Roy, who is a center they drafted with the 96th overall pick. And just the last guy I'll mention is Callum Booth, who was a goaltender they drafted with the 93rd pick. And he was the 9th goalie taken overall. So maybe he can be a goalie for them going forward as well. Maybe he'll be on the team come the 2018-2019 season. We'll see what happens with that. But those are my thoughts on the Carolina Hurricanes of the NHL. Hopefully you've liked Carolina Week for those of you that have tuned in and checked it out. I'll be signing off now, and thank you all again for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at GHAM614. I'll be back next week with a new city and new teams. Thank you again all. Appreciate the support. Bye-bye.